All right, time for convening having arrived. The Senate will come to order. Would ask unauthorized visitors to exit chamber at this time. Senate will come to order. Chair recognizes the very distinguished Rules Chairman, the Senator from the 53rd.
Good morning, Mr. President. Here on this beautiful 33rd legislative day, the journal's been read and found to be correct.
Thank you, Senator, for your good works on the journal. Is there objection dispensing with the reading of the journal? A reading of the journal is dispensed with. Is there objection to the confirmation of the journal? Chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. All senators having bills and resolutions to introduce, please bring them to the Secretary's desk at this time. First reading in reference of Senate bills and resolutions.
Senate Bill 250 by Senators Jackson II and Carter I. A bill to be entitled an act to amend an act incorporating
State and local government operations.
Senate Bill 251 by Senator James of the 35th.
State and local governmental operations.
Senate Bill 252 by Senator Harbison of the 15th. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 27 of
Veterans.
Senate Resolution 528 by Senator Harbison of the 15th. A resolution proposing an amendment.
Veterans Committee.
Through with the order, Mr. President.
First reading in reference of House bills and resolutions.
House Bill 106 by Representative Ralston of the 7th and others. A bill to make and provide appropriations. Through with the order, Mr. President.
Clerk will read reports of standing committee.
Mr. President, the Senate Education and Youth Committee has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that House Bill 115 do pass by substitute, that House Bill 116 do pass, that House Bill 284 do pass, that House Bill 350 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Tippins of the 37th, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Ethics Committee has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that House Bill 139 do pass by substitute, that House Bill 310 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Jeffries of the 17th, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Finance Committee has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that House Bill 164 do pass, that House Bill 210 do pass, that House Bill 371 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Hill of the 32nd, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Natural Resources and the Environment Committee has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that House Bill 36 do pass, that House Bill 126 do pass, that House Bill 155 do pass by substitute, that House Bill 274 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Tolleson of the 20th, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Special Judiciary Committee has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that House Bill 256 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Thompson of the 5th, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate State and Local Governmental Operations Committee has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that House Bill 342 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Ligon of the 3rd, Chairman. Through with the order, Mr. President.
Time for the morning roll call. No, I'm sorry, we need second readers. Clerk will read.
House Bill 3 by Representative Willard of the 51st. Evidence, Professional Forestry, Department of Public Health, AIDS Provisions. House Bill 79 by Representative Willard of the 51st. Official Code of Georgia, Revise, Modernize, and Correct Errors or Omissions. House Bill 99 by Representative Spencer of the 180th and others. Malt beverages, amount produced by a person in his or her private residence, change. House Bill 124 by Representative Harrell of the 106th and others. Local elections, votes cast for disapproval of Sunday alcohol sales by retailers shall not nullify prior election results, provide. House Bill 188 by Representative Coomer of the 14th and others. Professions and businesses, certain military certifications entitle persons to obtain certain professional licenses in this state, provide. House Bill 338 by Representative Wilkinson of the 52nd and others. Georgia Council for the Arts, role of arts in economic development and other vital functions to the state, clarify. House Bill 451 by Representative Smyrie of the 135th and others. Chattahoochee Judicial District, provide for additional judge. House Bill 487 by Representative Ramsey of the 72nd and others. Offenses against public health and morals, Georgia Lottery, correct a cross-reference. Through with the order, Mr. President.
It is now time for the morning roll call. And the motions to excuse, Chair recognizes Senator from 56.
Unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 40th for business inside the Capitol.
40th without objection. The senator from the 40th will be excused. Chair recognizes Senator from the 50th.
Mr. President, I request unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 9th for business outside the Capitol.
9th. Without objection, the senator from the 9th will be excused. Chair recognizes the senator from the 1st.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You ask unanimous consent for the senator from the 3rd to be excused for business within the Capitol.
Without objection, the senator from the 3rd will be excused. Chair recognizes Senator from the 44th.
Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 43rd.
43rd. Without objection, Senator will be excused. Chair recognizes Senator from the 34th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 22nd and the 36th.
22nd and 36th. Without objection, the two senators will be excused. Are there any other motions to excuse? Chair recognizes Senator from the 44th again.
Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 5th.
From the 5th, is there objection? Chair without objection, the senator from the 5th will be excused. Any other motions? Senators, please signify your presence by voting the A switch. The Secretary will unlock the machine. It's now time for our morning devotion. Would ask senators to please take your seats, cease conversation as we prepare our chamber for our morning devotion. It is indeed a great honor that we all look forward to. Would ask doorkeepers secure the chamber as we prepare for the morning devotion. It's my honor now to recognize the very distinguished senator from the 14th to lead us in our pledge and introduce our chaplain of the day. Senator.
Join me in the pledge to our nation's flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And to our state flag. I pledge allegiance to the Georgia flag and to the principles for which it stands, wisdom, justice, and moderation. It's my honor this morning to introduce to you someone who is in my opinion, a true American hero, a patriot, in the sense that the work that he does is totally volunteer. It's Chaplain Major Scott Westbrook, who is the head chaplain for the United States Air Force Auxiliary, the Civil Air Patrol. And he represents, he's the head chaplain for all the Civil Air Patrol here in the state of Georgia. For those of you who don't know of the Civil Air Patrol, it is the civilian auxiliary of the United States Air Force, tasked predominantly with search and rescue, in its emergency services role, aerospace education, and the cadet programs. The chaplaincy is a very crucial component of the Civil Air Patrol. I'll just share with you an experience that I've had with it. Not only do they do things like character development with our young people, counseling, mentoring, but they also play a crucial role in the times during disasters and emergencies. Several years ago, I was involved with an actual search for a missing aircraft, which we found the aircraft, and unfortunately the pilot was deceased by the time we got to the crash scene. When we returned back to our base, this was, in many cases, the first time members of our search and rescue team had actually encountered a deceased individual, and as you can imagine, as a result of a plane crash that can be pretty devastating. When we arrived back at our squadron in Rome, Georgia, the chaplains were waiting there to begin counseling the adults and others that were involved in that search and rescue, and provided with them with the encouragement that what they did mattered. Even though we may not have saved a life, we were able to return that loved one back to his family to have a final burial place, and they had resolution. And I saw the evidence of their work. The chaplaincy in this nation began with General George Washington in July of 1775, and in his order he stated that to the distinguished character of a patriot should be our highest glory to add the more distinguished character of a Christian. Throughout our nation's history, the chaplains have played a very important role in our military and also within the Civil Air Patrol. As I said, the members of the Civil Air Patrol that you see here at the Capitol today are all volunteers. They receive no compensation. In fact, the initial CAP, many of us jokingly say, means come and pay, because many expend a lot of their own resources to serve this nation and serve this state. Chaplain Scott Westbrook is a graduate of Mercer University. He received his Master's of Divinity from Southwest Baptist Theological Seminary, and he currently serves as the senior pastor at Riverstone Church in Beaufort. Please welcome Chaplain Major Scott Westbrook.
Thank you, Senator Loudermilk, for that introduction, and distinguished members of the Georgia Senate. What an honor and privilege it is for me to be able to serve today as your chaplain of the day, your pastor of the day. A little bit about me real quickly. I am a Georgia native. So I was born and raised here in the state of Georgia. In fact, it occurred to me on the way in that I was born just about a mile and a half back this way. What used to be Georgia Baptist Hospital. Now I believe it's Atlanta Medical Center. And my grandchild, I almost said grandson, I'm hopeful, will be born there this summer. But I was raised in this state, and as a young man, we crisscrossed this state with my parents and discovered the beauty of the state of Georgia. I developed a habit very early on of collecting stones everywhere that we went. Little boys do that. I would come home with a pocket full of rocks almost every time we went anywhere. I had some of the first stone-washed jeans that anyone had, but it wasn't planned. My mother wasn't happy with that process. But those little stones were my treasures. And it didn't matter if we went up to Stone Mountain or up in North Georgia at Cooper's Creek, I would come home with those treasures, those gems, the jewels. They were stones of remembrance of a great time that I experienced with my family and of a memory that we shared together. I continued that habit as I grew up. And as my journeys took me beyond Georgia, beyond the boundaries of Georgia, it didn't matter if it was overseas or somewhere else, I would oftentimes come home with a stone. And if you go in my study today, there's a little wicker basket that has stones in it. I can tell you stories behind almost every stone that's in that basket. So I was very interested in reading the Bible to discover that there was an occasion when God told the people of Israel, and they were on a journey, that they were to pick some stones up and to set those stones up as stones of remembrance. You may remember the story. They had been 400 years in bondage and in slavery. God had sent Moses as a deliverer to take them out of that slavery, across the desert, the Sinai Peninsula, and into the land that would become their home. But there was one problem, the Jordan River. And the Jordan River at this point was at flood stage. Now, I saw the Jordan River a couple of years ago. I was a little disappointed. It was more like Peachtree Creek when I saw it. But at flood stage, it becomes more like the Chattahoochee River, as it was on this day. And so as the people of Israel and the leaders stand there, there's a flooded river, and then the land that they were to move into is their new home. The leaders cried out to God and said, what are we going to do? What should we do? Give us some direction. And here's the word that God gave, and I'm going to paraphrase this, but God said, leaders, lead. I'm calling on you to have vision and to have faith and to step forward with courage. The leaders had to walk down to the edge of that flooded river. And you know, your leaders, you understand what I'm talking about. They had to step out with vision. They had to step out with faith and with courage and take the risk that leaders are called to take. You know, the story goes that they were able to go ahead and cross the river because God stopped the flow of the river that day and performed a miracle. When the day was over, all the people had finished crossing the river, and in my estimation, it's time to fire up the fire pit and cook supper. But God said, not so quick. First of all, leaders, go back down into this riverbed and select 12 large river stones. Set them up on the bank as stones of remembrance, that in future generations, as your kids say, what are these things? What does this mean? You can tell them and remember this event, and remember what it took to accomplish this event. That not only did God call you to be people of faith and people of vision and people of leadership, but that he met you at that point and he delivered you. You can tell your kids from generation to generation. Now, as leaders, we understand what leadership involves. It does involve vision. It does involve courage and faith, and it does involve taking those steps of risk. As we remember what God did in the past, we understand what God can do in the future, because those stones of remembrance are a reminder that the God who could help us in the past is the God who is present with us in the future. As we face challenges and opportunities and even obstacles in this day, he is still with us. I was so struck with the story that we named our church Riverstone Church. And many of the members of our church carry small little stones like this. There's nothing magical about this stone, but it's symbolic. It's a reminder of those times that God helped us in the past, to remember that when we face challenges in the future, that he will be with us. As leaders, and I understand I'm talking to a room full of leaders, each of you have a history of having to take those kinds of steps of faith, having vision, and being willing to step forward with the ability to take that risk that's involved with it. You feel the call to lead because you desire to bless your community, to help the people of Georgia. I believe that that is a holy desire that God desires to bless. And one of the secrets of leadership is having faith, vision, and willing to step forward and lead. That comes from something deep inside of us and something that God can empower and bless within us. In 1860, in the outskirts of London, a child was born in a tent. He received not one day of formal education, and yet he would go on to lecture at Harvard one day. He did not come from a noble family, and yet he would be invited to the White House to speak with the president on 2 different occasions. He crisscrossed the Atlantic Ocean 45 times, which is no small feat in that day. And he would speak to millions of people. It is said that when this man spoke, every time that he spoke, people would come to faith, lives were changed, and communities were impacted. Spiritual awakening would happen, revival would take place. His name was Rodney Smith. We know him more likely as Gypsy Smith. One day a group came to him and they said, "We want to know what your secret is. You impact communities everywhere that you go. We desire to impact our community too. What can we do? What will help us to impact our community? What is your secret?" And he said, "Here's what you do. You go back to your home. You go into your house and you go back into your bedroom and you shut the door. You take a piece of chalk and draw a circle. Then you step inside that circle and you kneel down. And you ask God to send revival there, to start there, to refresh you and to meet you at that point, because communities are changed by changed leaders." It is our prayer for you and our encouragement that God would meet you inside your circle, that you would find encouragement and empowerment and blessing as you lead this state and you lead your communities. I personally want to say thank you to every one of you for your support, not only of Civil Air Patrol, but the support, the leadership that you give the state. We pray for you, we honor you, and we desire for God to bless you. Get in that circle and let him do it. Would you join me in prayer? Father, today as we bow our heads before you, we ask, Lord, that you would bless every leader in this room, every man and every woman, that you would refresh them this day, and that as they face the challenges of this day, that you would grant them wisdom, that you would bring inspiration to them, that you would give birth to creative ideas, that you would bless them and bless their communities through them. We ask that you would be with each family, and as they face challenges, that they would know your presence and the comfort of having friends and loved ones surround them and be with them. Bless this meeting today with your presence, we ask in your holy name. Amen.
like to present the doctor of the day, and to do so, I call upon the distinguished senator from the 1st.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, our doctor of the day today is from Savannah, Dr. Johnny Sy. He is a board certified by the American Board of Emergency Medicine. Dr. Sy earned his doctorate of osteopathic medicine degree from New York College of Osteopathic Medicine in Old Westbury, New York. He completed his emergency medicine residency at the University of Florida Shands Medical Center in Jacksonville, Florida. Dr. Sy maintains membership in local and state medical societies. He is currently the assistant professor of Mercer University College of Medicine, attending physician and secretary of the Georgia Emergency Physician Specialists, and a clinical faculty at South University in the PA program. Help me, if you will, to welcome as our doctor of the day, Dr. Johnny Sy.
Thank you. I think Senator Carter was being a little too kind, but anyways, I do appreciate the opportunity to come down here to be the doctor of the day, and personally I want to thank you guys for all the hard work and sacrifice you guys do, and also for making the state of Georgia a favorable environment to practice emergency medicine. Thank you.
All right, guys. Excellent. Thank you. Very good. Yeah, thanks for everything. Let's pose for a picture down on the steps there. Buddy, behave. Senator from 14, Vladimir, if you ready? Okay, all right. Yeah. All right, let's get him up here. Cheryl, he's right back there in the back. We have a special group we'd like to recognize. Secretary will read a resolution.
Senate Resolution 120 by Senators Gooch of the 51st and others. A resolution commending and recognizing Mr. Neil McBrayer for being honored by the National School Transportation Association as one of the safest drivers in the country and for their purposes. Whereas Neil McBrayer, a Forsyth County school bus driver, was named the 4th safest driver in the United States and Canada during the National School Transportation Association's School Bus Driver International Safety Competition, the Bus Safety Road EO. And whereas Neil McBrayer looked at this competition as a learning experience, but soon his skills earned him a top spot at his county's event, and he moved on to the state level, where he finished second. And whereas his placement at the state level led him to compete in the international competition in Wisconsin, where he faced nearly 50 drivers in various events. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body commend Mr. Neil McBrayer on his outstanding honor and congratulate him on being named one of the National School Transportation Association's safest drivers. Through with the order, Mr. President.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. It's my honor now to call upon the distinguished senator from the 51st to recognize our very special guest.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, everybody. Let's take a stroll back into time when you were just a little child, some of you a little longer than others. You probably remember a lot about your childhood. You remember about your days in school. There's probably one person that stands out above everybody, and that's your bus driver. Now, some of you may be a little older than others. Some of you may be able to tell stories about how you walked to school and back and forth every day. And some of you may think about all the snow you walked through. I've heard those stories growing up. But I have fond memories myself of riding in a bus. My parents were bus drivers, and my cousins were bus drivers. And we have an opportunity today to recognize a gentleman that is an extraordinary bus driver. He lives in Forsyth County. He's actually one of the constituents of my good friend here to my right. But I want to honor this gentleman today. He won second place in the State of Georgia Bus Rodeo, and he went on to the international contest, and he came in 4th place in the international contest, and that's dealing with the United States and Canada. It's an extreme honor to have him here today. His supervisor is here as well. William Phillips is his supervisor. But we want to honor Mr. Neil McBrayer. But before we do, I'd like to turn the microphone over to the other senator from Forsyth County.
Thank you, Senator Gooch. I just really, it puzzles me how a senator who has 1/2 precinct in my district gets to honor my constituents. But I don't know how that occurred, but it is indeed an honor to have Mr. McBrayer here today, who is one of the safest bus drivers in the United States, and he's driving the bus in District 27 for Forsyth County. But glad to have you here, Mr. McBrayer. Come on, say a couple words.
We'd like to ask Mr. William Phillips to come forward. He's a district supervisor for the Forsyth County School District.
Good morning. Driving a school bus is one of the most important jobs, not taking anything away from you. But we take care of all of our little darlings to keep them safe, orderly, and respectful on our school buses every morning and every afternoon. We appreciate all the support that we receive from the Senate and the House and the state capitol. Just remember our bus drivers in your prayers as they try to keep all of our students safe each day. Neil, being in the rodeo, you don't realize that you only got about a half an inch on each side of your wheels to be able to complete each section of the rodeo. So this is a great honor, and I'm proud to have him as a part of my team. Thank you. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 50th to recognize some very special guests we have in the gallery.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the Senate. I'd like to welcome Leadership Habersham County, a group from Habersham Central High School who's here at the Capitol today, and their teachers, Ms. Patsy Bell and Mr. Kyle Deacle, and we have some FFA members up there. So at this time, I'd like for you to stand and let us recognize you.
Thank you, Senator. Secretary will read a resolution.
Senate Resolution 429 by Senators Loudermilk of the 14th and others. A resolution recognizing March 13, 2013 as Civil Air Patrol Day at the Capitol and commending the volunteers of the Civil Air Patrol for their service to the citizens of Georgia and for other purposes. Whereas the Civil Air Patrol was founded on December 1, 1941 as an organization of volunteers to assist the United States military in national defense by performing aerial coastal patrols and emergency services within the continental United States. And whereas Georgia Wing Squadrons have been awarded the National Squadron of Distinction in 2008 and 2009, the Southeast Region Squadron of Distinction in 2010, and numerous other awards for counter-drug, emergency services, and cadet programs. Whereas these Flying Minutemen of the Civil Air Patrol have, since the program's inception, consistently provided this state with invaluable emergency services, aerospace education, and cadet programs. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body recognize March 13, 2013 as Civil Air Patrol Day at the Capitol and commend the selfless contributions of the volunteers of the Civil Air Patrol have made to the state of Georgia. Through with the order, Mr. President.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? Chair hears none. The resolution is adopted. Speak to the resolution and recognize our very special guest. I call upon the distinguished senator from the 14th.
Thank you, Mr. President. And again, this is Civil Air Patrol Day at the Capitol. It's my pleasure to make an introduction to the leadership of the Civil Air Patrol here in the state of Georgia. But before I do so, I'd like to recognize many of the members and cadets of the Civil Air Patrol throughout Georgia that are joining us in the gallery today. If you guys will stand. The Civil Air Patrol has a very rich history here in the state of Georgia. Civil Air Patrol began during World War II as an effort of civilian pilots, which for various reasons could not enter into the Army Air Corps but wanted to serve. So they were doing coastal patrols using their own aircraft off the coast, spotting German U-boats, and even sank German U-boats after they were armed. McKinnon Field in Savannah was one of the most active squadrons of the Civil Air Patrol. Then after World War II, it continued on, was incorporated by Congress, and it still is active today, doing the majority of the search and rescue for missing aircraft in the continental United States, as well as what is one of the more important aspects is the cadet program. I'd like to introduce to you our wing commander, Colonel Tanya Boylan. Colonel Boylan is the first female commander of the Civil Air Patrol in the state of Georgia. She's been in that position for 3.5 years and is within just a month of passing on the flag to a successor who is yet to be named. But this is very special to me because when my family and I first joined, I rejoined Civil Air Patrol many years ago. We joined the Rome Composite Squadron, of which Colonel Boylan then was a member of that squadron before she moved up the ranks, and many of her family is still members of that squadron. So if you please give a nice Georgia Senate welcome to Colonel Tanya Boylan.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for having us here today. We genuinely appreciate all the support that the State Senate has given Georgia Wing for many years. I would like to introduce my command staff who are with me. This is Lieutenant Colonel Richard Greenwood, and this is Lieutenant Colonel Joe Knight. And we pretty much command as a team, so they have been with me every step of the way. For the last 3.5 years, it has been my honor and privilege to command 2,000 volunteers in this state. There are about 1,100 adults and about 900 teenagers. They are absolutely amazing. They're all over the state, from Rome to Brunswick and from Augusta to Albany. So please look around in your communities, meet these people. It's incredible to find folks that are willing to get up in the middle of the night and go search for someone they don't know. So they are the kind of people that you want to have in your state, and our cadets are our best hope for the future. So thank you very much again for your support to Georgia Wing.
Let's go on the steps and we'll get a picture. Are there any unanimous consents? Does any senator wish to rise on a point of personal privilege? We have any resolutions? Secretary will read chair recognizes senator from the 45th.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. If the senators will look on their desks, they should have a package of 2 diapers. And these diapers are presented to you by the Georgia March of Dimes. And the one thing that I want to show you is significant is that this is a preemie diaper. And this is the size or the weight of a preemie baby. And I want you to look at a 12-ounce can of soda and compare this diaper. This is what the March of Dimes does for the state of Georgia. This year marks the 75th anniversary of the March of Dimes. Since its founding in 1938 by President Franklin Delano Roosevelt to find a cure for polio, the March of Dimes has been leading the nonprofit organization for infant health in the country. The March of Dimes funded the development of 2 vaccines that virtually eliminated polio in 1958, Having achieved its initial mission, it shifted its attention from polio to the prevention of preteen births, the greatest contributing factor to newborns dying within their first month of life. Today, the March of Dimes is working together with volunteers for healthier, stronger babies. And I want you to look on your fact sheet that's on your desk. The thing that was significant to me, babies born full term usually weigh around 8 pounds. Babies born too soon often weigh less than 1 pound, many only weighing 12 ounces. The average cost to Georgians taking care of a premature baby in the first year of life is $49,000 a year. That does not include their initial entry into the world. If you've ever been in a prenatal intensive care unit and seen premature babies, they can cost up to $1 million at their initial birth. And if you've ever been in those units and seen those babies, it's very, very tragic. It's also fascinating to watch the healthcare professionals take care of them and nurture them so that they can go home and lead a successful life. The March of Dimes is downstairs on the south wing of the steps. I encourage you to go down and meet some of those volunteers and see what they do for the state of Georgia. Thank you very much.
Secretary will read a resolution.
Senate Resolution 523 by Senator McCoon of the 29th and others. A resolution requesting the support toward the reinstatement of wrestling in the Olympic Games from the International Olympic Committee and the United States Olympic Committee and for other purposes.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? Chair is none. The resolution is adopted.
Senate Resolution 524 by Senator Orrick of the 36th and others. A resolution honoring the life and memory of Richard A. Long and for other purposes.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? Chair is none. The resolution is adopted.
Senate Resolution 525 by Senator Williams of the 19th, and a resolution congratulating the Appling Christian Academy Lady Eagles basketball team on winning both the state and national championships and for other purposes.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? Chair is none. The resolution is adopted.
Senate Resolution 526 by Senator Williams of the 19th, a resolution recognizing and commending the Appling County Christian Academy football team on their victory at the National High School Football Tournament and for other purposes.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? Chair is none. The resolution is adopted.
Senate Resolution 527 by Senator Sims of the 12th, a resolution commending the Lynx Incorporated and recognizing March 22nd, 2013 as Georgia Lynx Day at the Capitol and for other purposes.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? Chair is none, and the resolution is adopted.
Senate Resolution 529 by Senator Tippins of the 37th and others, a resolution recognizing the first week of October 2013 as Georgia Pre-K Week at the State Capitol and for other purposes.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? Chair is none, and the resolution is adopted.
Senate Resolution 530 by Senator Jackson II and others, a resolution honoring and celebrating the 91st birthday of Mrs. Belula Davis and for other purposes.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? Chair is none, and the resolution is adopted.
Through with the order, Mr. President.
Are there any motions to withdraw or commit? Mr. Secretary, are there any objections filed on any of the bills on the local consent calendar?
Mr. President, there are no objections filed in the Secretary's office.
Is there objection to grant a report of committee on state and local governmental operations which failed to pass the bill? Chair is none. Report of committee is agreed to. All of those in favor of the local consent calendar will vote aye. Those opposed, no, and Secretary will unlock the machine. Voting on the local consent calendar. On the passage of the local consent calendar, the yeas are 47, the nays are 0, and all the bills on the local consent calendar are therefore adopted. Moving on to the general calendar, the Secretary will read House Bill 234.
House Bill 234 by Representative Smith of the 70th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 13 of the OCGA relating to contracts so as to enact a new chapter that provides for notice of automatic renewal provisions in service contracts and for other purposes. The Committee of the Senate on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. The Agriculture and Consumer Affairs Committee offers the following substitute to House Bill 234. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 13 of the OCGA relating to contracts so as to enact a new chapter that provides for notice of automatic renewal provisions in service contracts and for other purposes. Through with the order, Mr. President. Oh, wait, hold on. Amendment 1 by Senator Gooch offers the following amendment to House Bill 234 by striking lines 19 through 20 and inserting in lieu thereof the following. Consumer means a natural person receiving service, maintenance, or repair benefits under a service contract and for other purposes. Through with the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the Senator from the 51st to present the bill.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. President. I represent House Bill 234 here to you this morning. It's a bill sponsored by Representative Smith over in the House. This is a good consumer notification bill. It passed the House with 167 yes votes, 2 no votes. This bill simply requires a seller to notify a consumer of automatic renewal provisions included in a service contract. It defines terms relevant to the provisions of the bill, and it specifies the entities by which the requirements do not apply. Mr. President, I'll yield the floor for questions that you may have.
No questions, Senator.
Thank you.
Is there objection to the floor amendment authored by the Senator from the 51st? Chair hears none, and the floor amendment is therefore adopted. Question now is on the adoption of the committee substitute as amended. Is there objection? Without objection, the committee substitute as amended is adopted. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection? Agreeing the report of committee which fail pass the bill. Chairs none. Report of committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? The chairs none, and the main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? The question is on the pass the bill. All those in favor of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the pass the bill, the yeas are 49 and the nays are 0, and this bill having zero X constitutional majority is therefore passed. Secretary will read House Bill 255.
House Bill 255 by Representative Rogers of the 10th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 40-1-102 of the OCGA relating to certification as a prerequisite to the operation of a motor carrier of passengers or household goods or property and minimum insurance requirement and for other purposes. The Committee of the Senate on Public Safety recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. The Senate Public Safety Committee offers the following substitute to House Bill 255. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 40-1-102 of the OCGA relating to certification as a prerequisite to the operation of a motor carrier of passengers or household goods or property and minimum insurance requirement and for other purposes. Through with the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 53rd to present the bill.
A little traffic getting down here. Good morning, members of the Senate. Mr. President, thank you so much. I bring before you House Bill 255, and this is an easy bill. This simply transfers the responsibility of the Unified Carrier Registration Act, which is concerning the Commercial Carrier Compliance Division of the Department of Public Safety. There's no new money here. This is all the existing money that is collected currently with the Department of Revenue. This will go into effect July 1 of 2014. Mr. President, I'll be glad to answer any questions, or I yield the well. And this bill has lots of moral turpitude involved in it, too.
No questions, Senator. Questions on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection? Without objection, committee substitute is adopted. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection agreed to report of committee which fail pass the bill? Chair hears none. Report of committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? The chair hears none and the main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? The questions on the pass the bill. All those in favor of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed no. Secretary, unlock the machine. Let me have the Senate's attention for just a moment. The Senate has been busy doing work this entire week. We've been taking up House bills, and yet we've gotten no respect, it seems, out of the House to take up any Senate bills. And I think it's about time that the House take care of some of the Senate bills. And so with that, I recognize the Majority Leader. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 49, the nays are 0, and this bill, after Rex Constitution majority, is therefore adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate stand adjourned until 10 a.m. March 14th.
Read the announcements.
Rules will meet at 11:30 in 450 CAP. Regulated Industries and Utilities will meet at 1 p.m. in 307 CLOB. State and local governmental operations will meet at 1 p.m. in 310 CLOB. Georgia Behavioral Health Caucus will meet from 1 o'clock p.m. to 2:30 p.m. in 606 CLOB. Health and Human Services will meet at 2 p.m. in 450 CAP. Transportation at 2 p.m. in MES 1. Interstate Cooperation will meet at 2 p.m. in 125 CAP. Higher Education at 3 p.m. in 125 CAP. Duty Non-Civil will meet at 3 p.m. in 307 CLOB. Retirement at 3 p.m. in 310 CLOB. Appropriations Subcommittee on Education will meet at 3 p.m. in 450 CAP. Agriculture and Consumer Affairs will be at 4 p.m. in 310 CLOB. Judiciary will be at 4 p.m. in 307 CLOB. And State Institutions and Properties will be at 4 p.m. in 450 CAP.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 45th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate Chairman's lunch will be after rules. The lunch will be after the Rules Committee. That should be about 11:30.
The Majority Leader has moved that we stand adjourned until tomorrow at 10 a.m. All those in favor will say aye. All those opposed, no. Ayes clearly have it. We stand adjourned. Just as a reminder, stay around. Make sure you get all your pictures made with the pages before they leave.